I'm in an extraordinary position. I don't need to work for at least 2 years and don't have any financial concerns doing that. I want to use that time wisely because I want a big life. When I'm at home and I'm with myself, I really feel wonderful about this and so blessed to be in this position. And I'm virtual realitying my acting career, my yoga teaching, my trips to far off places. And then when somebody asks me about it, tends to be people that I'm just meeting. And I've moved to a new city, so I'm just meeting a lot of people. And somebody asks, what do you do? I can feel my vibration just...
Well, you know why?
No.
Because in the moment that you are interacting with another who asks you a question and you begin to answer the question, now, at many levels of your being, you're trying to factor in their response to what you're about. In other words, no one, even those who live with you, no one can understand your points of vibrational relativity. And the more you talk to them, the more you integrate what they're doing and thinking. Most people wouldn't even really like you because you don't have to work. It's just crummy that you're not out there in the salt mines like they are. And please don't ever earn more than them. In other words, you see what we're getting at. And so
yes.
What's happening is in your sensitivity to energy, you are concerning yourself with more than your 2 points of vibrational relativity. And whenever you do that, chaos ensues. So what you want to do is get some answers together. In other words, when you control the conversation, you get to take it where you want it to be. When you let someone else begin asking you questions, then they're going to take it where they want to be. So it's helpful to figure out what the questions are that they might ask and have some answers. People say to Jerry and Esther as they're traveling around, what do you do? They drive this big, magnificent monster bus. It's clear that they're prospering and thriving in many ways. And they're in it all the time. In other words, they're obviously not off working. Most of the time they're in this bus with people around them in wonderful parts of the world where people like to vacation. And so people will say, what do you do? And Jerry will say, well, we're authors. And they say, oh, that's nice. And usually that's the end of it. And occasionally someone will say, well, what do you write? And Jerry usually says, books. In other words, there's no point in going there if they're not ready to go there. In other words, he can feel if they're ready to go there. They say, what kind of books? And Jerry and Esther will say, oh, just on living a better life. And most people say, that's nice. I'd sure like to live a better life, as they grumble away. Some will say, oh, those must be very good books. What is the secret to living a very good life? And if someone goes that far, then Jerry and Esther will say, we have a book. They'll hand them a book. But usually, and we would say in more than 99% of cases, the people who are asking are not really looking for the answers that Jerry and Esther are capable of giving them. They're making light conversation, usually, or curious conversation. And if Jerry and Esther reveal more of themselves to those people than they are ready to receive, then it will introduce chaos into Jerry and Esther's experience. You see what we're getting at? Happens to all of you. So you want to be sensitive to where people are, but you want to trust that law of attraction is bringing those to you with whom you can interact. So you just figure out some things that you say. People say, what are you doing? And you say, oh, I'm just trying to decide what I'm going to do when I grow up. That'll head them off. And if they're really pushy, they will say, well, is there any sign that you're going to grow up anytime soon? And you would say, hopefully not. The happiest people I see haven't grown up, and most of the grown-ups all aren't that happy, so I'm just doing my best to put off growing up. But I'm looking forward to it. In other words, just be playful with them. Don't give people answers that you know they can't handle. When you give people answers that they can't handle and they're up close to you, they're just going to have their meltdown in front of you, and because you care about how people feel, you're going to be in on their meltdown. That's really essentially what's happening.
Awesome. I do have a question. I appreciate the humor and the I'm deciding what I want to be when I grow up. But in kind of taking that kind of route sometimes, I feel like a flake. It makes me feel very flaky.
Some of the most magnificent creators we know, by your standards, would be considered flakes.
Ah, right.
Do you know the majority of the masters on your planet didn't have an education? That's flaky, isn't it?
Yeah.
Most of them were not employed by someone else, couldn't hold down a job. Many of them were put in jail for being different, you see. In other words, flaky, 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 criminal derelict. In other words, the flake factor is without question you caring what somebody else thinks.
Oh.
And that's what this whole gathering is about. We want you to rank yourself in so that the only thing that you care about are your 2 points of vibrational relativity. Your 2 points of vibrational relativity, that's all. How you feel is what really matters, you see. If you said to us, I'm staying home, I'm really worried about money, we would say, well, we want you to do some work on closing the vibrational gap. But when you say, I'm not worried about money, I know wonderful things are happening, I'm doing virtual reality, and the only time I ever get uncomfortable is when I try to explain it to somebody who can't possibly begin to understand because they haven't lived in my shoes, they haven't walked in my contrast, they haven't launched my rockets of desire, they don't know how my inner being feels, they don't know what this point of vibrational relativity is, they don't know where I am, they don't know anything about my crack, they don't know anything about the processes that I do, they don't know anything about my vibrational relativity. They don't know anything about it. So why, in my attempt to socialize myself and fit in with them, would I put all of that aside, pay no attention to my own guidance that I was born with for this very reason, and try to please them? Oh, no, not them, them. Oh, yeah, them and them and them. Oh, yeah, them and them and them and them, 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 them and them and them and them. Oh, them and them and them. Oh, no, this new person that I just met.
Great, thank you. Next question. This one I'm still forming the question, and it's not so much a question but a statement that I'm hoping that you can expound on. I've gotten a real sense recently that there are less physical things and there are more things that are not physical. There's more air than there is anything, and really...
And more energy.
And more energy, yes. And in watching myself, when I'm, if I'm angry or upset, I'm closing off my air intake. It's very clear to me that I'm doing that. I work with children. I see the kids until they're red when they're upset. And it's given me a real sense of, is taking in air, is that taking in source energy?
Well, source energy doesn't come through the air. Source energy is vibrational. But when you focus on breathing, you're not focusing on things that are restricting your vibration. Here's the easiest way to hear it. You vibrate here in this pure positive energy place, like the cork bobbing on the water. You can hold the cork under the water, which is false and not who you are. But when you let go of the cork, it's going to bob right back up. It's natural for you to be up here. So when you distract yourself from whatever's holding you down here, you naturally bob back up there. And so we teach meditation because when you quiet your mind, your cork floats. When you appreciate, your cork floats. When you breathe on purpose, it takes concentration to breathe that air in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Esther found us that first day by focusing on her breathing. It's the first time she'd ever meditated. First time she ever meditated, she sat and just let her air go out and her air come in. And she focused upon it so powerfully that she distracted herself from every vibration that was lower and slower and connected with us on her first day of meditation. It took 9 months of meditation for her to get up to speed where she could really begin translating. But she met us fully on that first day, you see. And so we teach meditation because, frankly, it's just easier to teach you to have no thought than to have pure positive thought. We would encourage a sitting every day for 15 minutes if you can find it and just breathe. Breathe. Just sit with the intent of breathing. Breathe as much air into your lungs as you can, and when you think they're full, still breathe more in. And when you think they're full, still breathe more in. And when you think they're full, still breathe more in. Then let it out slowly and enjoy it as it goes. And then do it again. In and out, just breathe. And eventually you'll discover that, like when you run, runners talk about being in the zone. Well, they're running. They have another intention, which is to move their body from place to place. But in the process of running like that, they begin breathing. In other words, it's the distraction from things that are holding them vibrationally apart that is really at the heart of all of this better feeling, you see.
So it's more about the no thought than it is about the breathing.
It's more about the changing of your vibration than it is about the air. But the air is helpful in the changing of vibration because it takes concentration. In other words, we think it would be an interesting thing. We're not going to do it. But if we just were silent for 15 minutes and encouraged you all to breathe, just breathe, you would find it to be one of the harder things that you've done today. To just sit and deliberately breathe air in and out, in and out. In other words, you don't need to think about breathing. But when you do think about breathing, you will find that it is a concentration that you're not accustomed to. Because most of you are not accustomed to holding your thought in any particular place. Most of you offer most of your vibration in response to what you're observing. So if what you're observing makes you feel good, all the better. But if what you're observing makes you feel bad, and that's why most of you are up and down and all around in your thoughts, because you're observing all kinds of different things. Now, law of attraction does not allow your range to be too broad. In other words, in the things that get your attention day after day after day, you develop a sort of pattern or groove part on the emotional scale. In other words, it's uncommon, although it does happen, for you to be joyous and depressed regularly. Esther would say that her low end is usually overwhelmment. And her high end, of course, is passion and joy. And she's more often on the passion and joy end than she is on the overwhelmment end, but she rarely dips much below that. And so her set point is more up here in belief and knowing and feeling good. And so the majority of her life that comes by law of attraction reflects that vibration. Everything about everyone's life reflects where their averages are on the emotional scale. And of course, it's possible to feel joyous about money, as you said, and worried about a child, maybe, or angry about something that your neighbor did. And it depends on how much airtime each of those subjects are getting, which causes your sort of average vibration. So somebody who's just angry all the time is a vibrational match to a certain set of diseases, while someone who's just optimistic, joyful all the time is a match to a certain kind of bodily conditions, while someone who's overwhelmed all the time is subject to a certain kind of bodily conditions. In other words, you get so that you can understand not only why everything is happening to you, but as you are privy to the moods and attitudes of those who surround you, it's not hard to figure out why they're getting everything that they're getting. When something gets your attention and you focus on it for a little while and it activates that vibration within you, now law of attraction is going to bring more things like that. That was Jerry's pronouncement to Esther when the water was on the kitchen floor. Esther said, "Isn't this interesting?" And Jerry's words were, "It must be your point of attraction." And Esther said, "I guess. I accept it. I guess that it is." And it certainly was Esther that had been feeling like that. In other words, it was not a match to the way Jerry had been flitting around. He had been a happy bugger.
Okay, last one. And it goes right with the opening, in that being a purposeful co-creator and then getting something that doesn't feel good. And sometimes feeling, blaming myself for that. But my dominant belief in that is that the universe knows better than I do.
Well, it does, certainly. But an even better belief to be shooting for and reminding yourself of until you absolutely know it is that things are always working out for you. In other words, we told the story about Esther because we want you to understand how really silly it is for anything to get you down. Because the solution is only a vibrational improvement away. You've come to believe so much in the power of circumstances. In other words, the war in the Middle East, what's going on with this administration, what's happening with the economy, what's happening with things that feel out of my control or even things that are closer to me that I feel that I ought to control. When you finally get it, that your improved feeling is only a thought away,